What is up, everybody? It is Drew, Travel and Burning Bits here with another video, and today I'm showing you something that really and truly is the reason that a lot of you are here watching the channel, and that is a Burning Abyss deck profile. I haven't posted one of these in months. I think the last time was somewhere around July. I honestly have not been playing the game as much as I was for a while. I've kind of like really toned back. I've had some other commitments outside of the game that are significantly more important. Filming this in my brand new office in my new house that my wife and I moved into, so you know, that's gonna take precedence over cardboard any day of the week. So but I have a deck profile for you today, and I'm gonna showcase in what I would consider, at least in my opinion, almost a blind second, or I guess we'll call it hand trap Burning Abyss, because that's kind of how I've coined it. As many people know, I'm not a big fan of trap Burning Abyss. I played it several years ago, and I don't think the trap version is as good as the hand trap version. So I've opted to go this route, and it's the way that I have the most success, and there are a lot more cards that have come out since I posted the last profile of this deck that are going to significantly boost the deck's power. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in and showcase this for everyone. All right, so we're gonna start with the main deck per usual. The BA cards, we have 3 Graph, which just, you know, I feel like everyone knows what this stuff does, but I'm just gonna go over it. You're gonna get to summon one of your BAs from deck when this hits the graveyard, which is really good. We have 3 copies of Seer, which is gonna revive a BA from your graveyard when Seer hits the graveyard. We have 3 Skarm, which at the end phase of the turn it hits the graveyard, you search for your level 3 Fiend. I'm playing 2 Libic. Libic specials a BA from hand and negates its effect. So if you have a non-BA on field, this is really good because you can normal it. It gets automatically popped because you have the non-BA. And then if you have like a Seer in your hand, you could special summon the Seer, and the Seer won't be destroyed because its effects will be negated due to Libic. So that's really good. 2 Farfa. I don't think 3 is really necessary for the most part ever. 2 is more than fine. And then the one-ofs, 1 Barbar, 1 Calcab, and 1 Alec or Alich, however you want to pronounce it. This is a monster effect negation. This is a bounce of a set spell trap, and this is a basically win condition in time, or if you just miss game by a little bit, you just burn them for the rest. But yeah, they're just more names, 16 names, which ensures that you should statistically open 2. Then I do play 1 Rhino and 1 Tour Guide. I hate Rhino because like you get impermed on it and then it basically ends your turn. Like it's really not that great, to be honest. Like this card's really good in like Unchained, but in this deck, like this variation, I don't think it's fantastic. I might cut it for just another copy of like another name or something, because like I'd rather have another name than this card, to be perfectly honest with you. The only time it's good is like, you know, if your opponent doesn't have imperm, or like, you know, you're able to get it off the Tour Guide, and then you can detach it off of like a Dante, and then you can send like a Graph. But yeah, the Tour Guide also, you only need 1 of this card. Like never play more than 1 of this in this deck. I know it's weird because like you look at decks like Unchained and they play 3. Don't do that in this deck. You are significantly more reliant on your Burning Abyss cards. This is just like if you know your opponent has nothing. Basically this is follow up on your next turn. It's like turn 1, if you get a Skarm in grave, you can search this at end phase, and then your next turn you can drop the Tour Guide. But yeah, my 2 least favorite cards that you kind of almost have to play. Moving on to the hand traps though, we have 3 copies of Ash. Everyone knows what Ash does. You know, it's a great card, just an absolutely great card, good trade-off. 3 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. This is interchangeable with Ghost Bell depending on what you think you're going to run into. This card's really, really good against like Centurion though, which is insane. Like it's actually really, really good against that deck. So yeah, I like Ghost Ogre. It has a bunch of implications in other matchups too, but I felt like pointing out Centurion a little more specifically because it does put in a lot of work, but it does get rid of a card. Like sometimes getting rid of a card makes it so your opponent can't keep comboing. So yeah, Ghost Ogre, pretty good. Then 3 Droll, because like it can end turns sometimes. Like this card's crazy. Yeah, Droll is Droll. Like your opponent, like, and the best part is this deck, like you don't have to search or draw that much in this deck, so you're fine with being under Droll. 3 copies of Valor. Valor's pretty good. I don't have much else to say. Like it's just, it is what it is. Card's pretty good. And then 3 Imperm, because like it doesn't let your opponent thrust or talents. So like that's pretty important. Then the spells, 3 Droplet, because like the card's pretty good. You know, obviously it depends on what your opponent has in a way, but I do like Droplet a lot. Card's pretty sweet. So yeah, negating stuff is actually significant in a lot of instances. Then 2 talents. Yeah, like because you do go second with this deck, you're probably gonna want a couple copies of this card in there. It does a lot and it's just super strong. You can, you know, obviously rip something from their hand. You can draw 2. Drawing 2 is really, really good because that just gets you either more hand traps / board breakers like Droplet and Imperm, or, you know, stealing a card could be useful as long as you don't have to worry about your BA names being popped. So yeah, triple attack is pretty sweet. And lastly, 2 Desires, because it just draws you more cards. If you want to play Prosperity, you can. But yeah, I went with Desires because I wanted to draw more cards and see like more BA names off of this. So like, because if you open up 2 BA names and then like, so if you're going second, you still start with 5 cards before you draw your 6th for turn. So you want to open up like 2 BA names and then like 3 cards that just break your opponent apart. So usually 3 hand traps in this deck's case. So like you go ahead and you drop your hand traps, it goes to you, and like let's say you draw another BA name. Now you've got 3 BA names and you can do Zeus combos, you can do Beatrice stuff, like all these different things. But if your opponent still establishes a board, you want more BA names to be able to make more XYZ monsters, because inevitably they're going to interrupt you. So Desires hopefully get you to those other names. That way you don't have to worry about it. And then maybe you have like 4 BA names in hand and you've hand trapped them to death. So yeah, really, really good. But that is the main deck. Should be 40 exact. I'm gonna go ahead and hop on over to the extra deck and show you all the cool cards that we are special summoning. All right, so moving on to our extra deck now. We have 2 copies of Dante. I don't think the 3rd is completely necessary considering all the other cards that we're playing in here that are, in my opinion, pretty important. So I've opted to stick with 2 Dante, and I think it's probably the proper choice. And I am playing the Beatrice. I'm not playing Purple Dante, which is very unusual for me. I almost always play Purple Dante because the card, in my opinion, is insane. But I've opted to go with the 2 regular Dante and Beatrice, and you know, like I'm not going for Purple Dante because there's no more extra deck space to do that anymore, which is crazy. But that's because we're playing more cards that are really, really good for going second, like Fortune Tune and our Downward Magician, because these are going to get us up into a Zeus, which is fantastic. So I think that playing these 2 cards are a really, really solid choice. And this, like, your opponent can't target it with card effects, and there's a lot of targeting going on in the meta right now. So you swing with that, and then like if you have to avoid destruction, you detach one, then main 2, you just make a Zeus and you board wipe, which is obviously really strong. But, you know, if you attack like a defense position monster and they don't have much, then main phase 2, you can always do Downerd and then Zeus. And then you've got 2 wipes off of the Zeus, which is pretty good. Then we have the DDD package, the Deus Machinax, and the Darius. This is also pretty good. There are times that you can also just end on these cards on your board, and it's not bad. Like, you get to basically, you know, take 2 monsters with it, or 2 cards or whatever. So yeah, this is actually pretty good too, and obviously it gets you up into Zeus. Then we play Typhon because this card is really cracked. Yeah, this is an amazing card. Definitely play this card if you can. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. Like, the card's pretty solid. Then I do play 2 Zeus. I think 2 is optimal in here. Like, you can't play 1. You have to play multiple with, you know, this blind second Burning Abyss stuff. So 2 Zeus fully necessary. But those are the XYZ monsters, and I'm going to showcase the Link monsters. 1 Cherubini, because like, card does help you kind of rank up or link up, however you wanna word it, into some higher rated Link monsters. So like, you can go into really strong cards with this card and kind of break your opponent's board apart and keep playing the game, which is fantastic. Then I'm also playing the IP, which I've been playing IP in this deck for quite a while, so that shouldn't be a surprise. Additionally, the new card, SP Little Knight, this card's really good, and in this deck, it's just fantastic. I mean, you can do a lot of things with this, and yeah, like, this card's actually just crazy itself. So like, the amount of things that you can do makes it fully worth playing this. And the Typhon as well, like, you know, SP Little Knight and Typhon alone, it's like, you know, why wouldn't you play them in this deck? They just mix and blend very well with the strategy. So we're sticking with those. And then I do play a Unicorn, which can definitely come up. Like, it'll come up every once in a while. So you can't discount this card. It is pretty good. And then lastly, the 1 access code. If you want to play something else, you can. You know, theoretically, you could play like Boral Sword or something, but I think access code is, you know, half decent. You're really only going to get 1 pop out of it because you're playing all darks, which is why I say you can play Boral Sword, but usually like 1 pop is enough, like, because you do so many other things with this deck that involve clearing your opponent's board. So 1 pop is usually enough, and then a big beat stick to kind of swing in does usually get the job done. So, but like I said, if you want to play Boral Sword, play Boral Sword. I will not hold it against you. Yeah, it's interchangeable. Nothing is ever definitive. Like, you can change and edit anything that you want to edit. But that is the extra deck. I'm going to go ahead and hop on over to the side deck now, so you can see what the you know, post game 1 looks like. All right, so big surprise, we are playing more hand traps. Playing 3 DD Crow for any of those graveyard decks that kind of need to be put in check. Like I mentioned before about Ghost Ogre, if you feel like swapping out Ghost Ogre for Ghost Spell, you can, and then you would have these in the side as well, or vice versa, which then grants you a lot of interruption with the graveyard, which isn't a terrible idea, but you know, you guys do whatever works for you. But 3 DD Crow, I think, is definitely important. I also want, before we move forward, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I'm not playing Bystials in this deck, and I think that's very important to note, because the Burning Abyss monsters do have their whole, you know, destruction effect when you control a non-Burning Abyss. I opted to not play any Bystials in the side and play the DD Crows instead. I just think that for this deck, strategy is probably the correct call. Then 3 Gameciels. This card's really good against a lot of things. Obviously, it's great against Pearly. They can make a Noir all they want, but we're gonna get over it. So yeah, like, Gameciel just outs really problematic cards. like with Centurion, if they try and shotgun Crimson Dragon and you have Ogre or Imperm or Droplet, like you just stop them dead in their tracks. So like you drawing the Gamma Seal makes it so they can't even use the effect, because they're not going to shotgun it if they're a good player. And the thing is, if you have the Gamma Seal, you just tribute over their Crimson, and then like what do? They're just down their lock. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff this is good against. I mean, it's not just like one or two decks. There's a bunch of decks you can drop a Gamma Seal on and it hurts them. So yeah, pretty good card. I mean, you could tribute Little Knight with it too. Like if your opponent has a Little Knight, just tribute over it, and then you're good to go. Like, that seems pretty good. The spells though have 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Duster, and then this is just back row removal pretty much. Yeah, we're playing like 6 cards that remove back row. Technically, Evenly does remove more than back row. You do get to clear your opponent's board out regardless of what they're playing. Cards are really good against like Rescue Ace. So yeah, Evenly is a fantastic card. Good against Labyrinth too. Like you just want stuff for decks that have a bunch of cards that they're dropping on the field. It's not always an establish, this board that's going to be all spells or all monsters. It can be a bit of both, or it could be one or the other, and Evenly does the trick. Whereas like, the Harpies is just for back row. Lightning Storm can also be for monsters or back row. But yeah, pretty fair amount of removal. And then lastly, for when we go first, I'm playing 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier because I love this card. I will always love this card. This this card basically just tells your opponent that they don't like have much of a turn. Like go ahead, play Branded, like watch what happens. Yeah, Branded Fusion activates, just go D-Barrier and watch them cry. Like you play against Sword Soul, they like summon something, they get a token. Once the token summons, flip the Dimensional Barrier, and then they're stuck. They can't even like special summon anything from extra deck other than Synchros because they have the token up. But because you call Synchro, now they can't special summon anything from the extra deck, and they're left with either a Long Yuan on the field or a Mogi on the field. Could be a Taya too, technically, which, for them, really sucks. So, yeah, Dimensional Barrier is really good against a bunch of stuff. There's so many other decks, obviously, Sword Soul isn't a great example because it's not super popular. But you guys get the gist that there are a lot of decks this card can be really good against. If you don't want to play this card and you're like, I want something else, I would go for something like Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think Anti-Spell Fragrance is an equal substitute for this card, and I think that it's fully justified to do something along those lines. So that is the side deck though. Our whole 15 card side deck, which is, in my opinion, pretty optimized per the meta. Okay, so I figured I should do a couple of test hands. That way I could just show like how the deck can play out. That way everybody gets at least somewhat of an idea of what we're working with. So I don't know how many test hands I'm going to do, but I will at least showcase how I would play the hands out and what I think is probably the optimal route per each hand. Hopefully it goes at least somewhat well, so it doesn't look absolutely terrible, because that would suck. But I mean, I've played this deck enough to know that the strategy is fairly linear, and usually it works out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do go second, like I said. We open Imperm, Droplet, Veiler, Rhino Warrior, and Seer. That seems really good. So like we can Imperm something, we can Veiler something, and then when it comes back to us, we draw it for turn. Oh, there's an Imperm. So I would start by activating Imperm on one of their monsters if they have one. If they say like, okay, let's say they have like 2 more, you can literally go Droplet, send Imperm, and send Rhino, negate 2 more. Then Rhino effect, you can dump a card. So like we're gonna dump Graph here. And then that'll trigger the Graph effect to special. I would grab a Skarm. I would then normal the seer, overlay the 2, and here it's probably a good idea to like go Dante because you're gonna be able to summon back with the seer. So like their stuff is halved too because of droplet, one like a couple of their cards are. So if you have something that you can swing over, like swing over it without detaching, and then main 2, you can go downward. Obviously this will switch to defense on its own, but main 2 you go downward, and then you go for Zeus. And then here I would probably detach to wipe the board. I'd detach the downward and the Skarm, so their board gets wiped, and then during the end phase, your Skarm will trigger Engrave to add from deck to hand, and you'll end up getting a Tour Guide probably. So now you've got a Tour Guide in hand, you've still got a Zeus wipe on their turn, and then after you Zeus wipe on their turn, so you detach your 2, after the wipe happens, you'll get Seer 1, target Dante, Dante 2, target Seer, so Seer comes back to hand, and then Dante hits hits the board. At this point, if they like start to play through your board more, and they happen to get rid of Dante, your Dante then gets to add back another Burning Abyss from your grave. So let's add back the Graph, and then if they like kill the Zeus, that's fine, but they probably won't get that far because you board wipe them 2 times. And then when you draw for turn, now you're going to be back to 4 cards, and we draw a droplet. Like that's that's insane. But yeah, like that's how the deck kind of plays. Like you just kind of play through your opponent's stuff. That was a very good hand. That was a phenomenal hand actually. That did everything that we wanted it to and more. So I'm just gonna shuffle this up real quick. Actually, let me put the extra deck stuff back. Yeah, that was like, I don't think I could have asked for a better hand there. Like really and truly. Really, really good stuff. And mix this up again. Beautiful. Yeah, like this deck, obviously it's not meta, and I think that everybody knows that. It's like, I don't even know if I'd say it's rogue at this point. It's just copium, but deck's really, really fun. So there's 4 and 5. Okay, so we have Droll, cool. So we Droll them, sweet. If that's like, you know, a turn ender, great. We draw for turn, we hit a Seer. Okay, so here we've got some interesting stuff we can do. I'm going to normal the Libic and then special the Alec, okay? Now keep in mind, this is going second. So if they have anything, then, you know, we would probably go here and we would start our typical combo out with a Zeus. However, if we draw them and they don't have much of anything, then it's going to be a little bit different. So we have a lot of things that we can actually do with this hand because we have like all names here. You can link summon these 2 and make a Cherubini. That'll trigger the Libic to special from hand. So I'm going to special the Seer from hand. Cherubini effect can send a Graph, wherever it may be. We need a Graph. There's a Graph. Then Graph effect can summon a Farfa. From here, you can do like multiple things, but I want everybody to keep in mind, our friend here, SP Little Knight. Let me see if that'll actually focus. You can do it. Come on, focus, focus. Maybe. It doesn't want to focus. I just want everybody to be able to read it. Hopefully it's not like too blurry to where you can't read it. But anyways, I'm going to read it for you because my camera's not focusing. It says, if this card is link summoned using a fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link monster as material, target one card in the field or in either graveyard, banish it. Also, your opponent's monsters cannot attack directly this turn. Also, your monsters cannot attack directly this turn, sorry. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, target 2 face-up monsters in the field, including monster you control, banish both until the end phase. So, like, that's a really, really good card. So what I want to show to you is the fact that you can overlay these two for the Dante, okay? And after you overlay for the Dante, you have multiple routes as far as spot removal, because if you detach the Farfa to like mill 3 cards, the Farfa will banish a card, okay? Or there is a better part here, because I would not advise milling 3 here at all. I don't think milling 3 does anything for you. I would link these two and make your Little Knight, because now what's going to happen is you're going to have Seer chainlink 1 target Dante, Dante chainlink 2 target Seer, then Farfa chainlink 3 target one of their monsters if you want to. I wouldn't, but you can if you want to. And then after that, you're gonna have SP Little Knight be, in this case, your chainlink 3, because we're not doing Farfa as a chainlink 3. So they're gonna get one of their cards banished. You're gonna get your Seer back to hand, and then you're gonna get your Dante back on the field. So now let's assume that, you know, the one card that we cleared was really all they could set up because we did droll them. You can obviously do battle phase here if, you know, it's permitted. But let's say they do have something a little bit bigger that you have to beat over. You discard the Skarm and you make the Beatrice. Then battle phase, swing with the Beatrice. And like, that's a really, really good option, because now in main phase 2, you can make a Zeus. And then during your end phase, your Skarm will trigger. And that'll get you a tour guide to your hand. So now you've got a Skarm, a Seer, and a tour guide in hand. And during your opponent's turn, when they activate something, you can SP Little Knight, banish their monster and the Little Knight. And then you also have a board wipe with Zeus. And when your Dante hits the grave, you get to add back any one of your BAs. So in this case, let's just grab Farfa, because it's more spot removal. So you've effectively cleared their board and then, like, you know, been able to combo, which is really, really cool. So that wasn't a bad hand either. The Droll probably put us in the best position possible, because Droll does what Droll does. So you can't argue with that. Making it so your opponent really can't play the game is, you know, pretty optimal for this deck. Like, that's all you're trying to do, is you're just trying to out resource them, or I should say resource manage them, because like, you're gonna have a recurring resource with this deck. Like, that's literally what it does. Your Dante Seer loop is always going to be important. So like, the ability to just have that loop there always guarantees your resources in some way, shape, or form. But we're gonna do, I think, one more test hand just to showcase you know, how this works. Maybe I'll do, after this one, this going second one, maybe I'll do one going first test hand. So there's 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if we're going second, we do have 2 hand traps. So we can Valor and Ogre them. Hopefully, you know, the Ogre is helpful. And then it comes to us. We draw for turn. There's a Droplet. That's really, really good. Now we're gonna go Desires. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 and 10. I just want to see what we banish before we draw. Not terrible. This is actually not bad. So I feel like because we banished a decent amount of names, that maybe we won't draw as many names, but let's see. There's one name and there's another name. Wow, I was totally wrong. We drew 2 more names. So another thing that you can do too, like if they chain to the desires, you can always do a droplet, but like you don't have to, obviously. So looking at this, I would probably start with, I'm gonna go with normal sear. I mean, well, you might want to hold the sear. Like, it might be good to go special Alec, special Farfa, and then overlay, and make something like Fortune Tune, and then swing at one of their monsters. If they have something in defense position, that's great, because then you don't have to detach to avoid destruction. And then main 2, you could always go Downard Zeus. But like, if you attack into something and you detach one of these, then main phase 2, you can just make a Zeus for free here. And then, you know, wipe the board, which is pretty good. But now, like, you're just in this weird, awkward position. Like, that's the tough part, is that you're in this weird, awkward position where now you don't have a second Zeus wipe for their turn. And, like, optimally, you want a wipe on their turn. Like, that's important. So, that being said, it's probably not super optimal to go Fortune Tune. And what you do instead, you still special these 2 out. So this is still correct, but you're gonna overlay them for like a Dante, or you're going to link them for a Cherubini. Those are your 2 options. So let's go with a link. Let's link for Cherubini while we're going second here. Cherubini's effect will trigger to dump. I'm going to send a Graph. Graph effect will trigger to special summon from our deck. Did I banish them? Oh no, well, oh no, I think I did. I think I banished both copies of Libic. Let's double check. I'm pretty sure I saw them at the top here. Yeah, I did. Okay, so now we have to summon something different that's not Libic, which is kind of sad here. But you know what? I'm gonna summon the. Let's go for a Calcab. We just need another name on board. Okay, we'll run with this. We'll run with this. It could work. Now we can normal summon our Seer. Now we're going to overlay, and making a Dante is most likely your best bet here. So we make the Dante. Now keep in mind, we still have the droplet too, so that can definitely come up. So like in this scenario, you can link these 2 and make a Little Knight. So now your Little Knight comes out, and then you can get your Seer Dante chain here. So this will come back to hand. Dante comes to field, and the Little Knight banishes a card, which is cool. You still have the droplet, the Skarm, and the Seer here, which is fantastic, because like you can droplet something and by sending the Skarm, and then if Dante is like at a decent enough attack to swing into something, then you swing into it, and then main phase 2 you would still make a Downard Zeus, which would be fantastic. Or if like they have one monster, you can droplet, send the Skarm, and then attack over their monster with the Little Knight, and then main phase 2, or I'm sorry, then attack directly with Dante, and then main phase 2 go into the Downard and then the Zeus. So that's pretty good. And obviously like Typhon is always an option too. I feel like I should talk about that like a little bit. This card is an option now, so yeah, pretty good choice. I guess I'll do one hand for going first to kind of show what I guess we could do going first. I don't like going first with this deck, but I will do one just for the video and the sake of everybody watching, because everybody always wants to see. But you can see how the math works out, where we are seeing pretty much 2 Burning Abyss names almost every single hand, and then, you know, hand traps or board breakers. So I'm gonna go ahead and do one test hand going first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not a great one. I'm gonna be honest. This is pretty poor. I'm gonna be perfectly fair here. Yeah, this is why I don't like going first, because going second, this hand is busted. Going first, it sucks. Like, it just sucks. So like, we normal summon Skarm, special Seer, overlay, make a Dante, then we can mill 3. Let's see what we hit. Nothing good. Okay, we just bar banish the Calcab and burn them for 300. Cool. Then literally you have to set Droplet and go end phase Skarm to grab a Graph here, which is really sad, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. And like, that's literally all you can do. That's why I go second with this deck, because going first, it's usually atrocious. I don't like going first at all anymore. I prefer to just go second with it. So like, you have the Ash, which is like cool. Like, if you're playing against Branded, you win, great. And then you have the Droplet, which can send the Graph, and if you have to send the Dante too, you can, because Seer is under it, so you're gonna get to revive it. But you really don't have that much to go off of, which is why I have really repeatedly said this is a going second deck. You want to go second with it. But still, there's some interruption there. It's just nothing fantastic. So I'll do one more going first hand, but this is, once again, not the intention of the deck. Our intention is completely to go first. Or I'm sorry, to go second, not to go first. I said that completely incorrectly. So one more hand here, and then we'll call it wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we've got 2 hand traps, 2 BAs. We're going first in this scenario. Start with the Desires. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's see what we banished. Okay, I don't know why I'm banishing both Libics today, but I am. Draw 2. Oh, there's a Graph. This is actually really good going first. We're going to go normal Graph, special either Calcab or Alec, either one. Then overlay, and we'll make Dante here. Activate the Dante, milling 3. There's a Seer and a Barbar. Just want to check something real quick. Oh, I banished the other Seer. That really sucks. But we'll make it work. We'll make it work. This is actually fine. So you can use Seer's effect here. I wouldn't necessarily like advise it, but you can. You know, and the tough part is too that we've got both Libics banished. So like, using the Seer is actually very suboptimal. So you're gonna use Graph's effect to special summon. There's a Skarm. Unfortunately, we hit the worst mills and banishes possible. I was really hoping not to hit the Seer. I almost just milled 1 just to play it safe, but I didn't. So the Skarm is now on the field. Unfortunately, we have to extend a lot further than I like to, so we're going to special the Alec, and then we are actually going to special summon the Seer, which is very odd to do this much. But then you're going to overlay these 2, and you can do one of 2 things. So you can like set up a Stone King Darius into Deuce Machinax, which is okay, but I don't really like doing that that much, because like, then you're relying on your opponent to do certain things. It's almost better in some ways to make a Dante, but at the same time, you don't have to. Like, this is where it gets tricky. So just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna do the actually, no, we can't even do that, because I have to do this a certain way. We are going to make a second Dante, and we're going to detach the Skarm and mill 3 more cards, I guess. Okay, we hit another Graph. Fantastic. So now you're going to keep the Dante with the Seer on the field, but you're going to link the Dante with the Calcab under it and the Alec to make IP Masquerena. So now IP comes out. And then your, sorry, I just almost took you guys out. Let me just fix this real quick. So then your Dante is gonna trigger to add back. In this scenario, I'm gonna grab, I mean, we're gonna get a seer back regardless, so I'm not gonna grab the seer. I think it's probably best to grab the graph back here. And then we get to go end phase Skarm. And Skarm is going to grab us Tour Guide. And then during our opponent's turn, we do have Ashen Ogre, which, like, cool, okay, hand traps. And then we can also IP with the Dante and make either a Little Knight or a Unicorn. Little Knight is obviously the best pick. And then, you know, we'll get Seer 1 target Dante, Dante 2 target Seer. So those both happen. And our Little Knight would also be Chainlink 3. We'd banish one of their cards. And then if they activate something, we get to banish another card. So, I mean, 2 hand traps and 2 banishes, probably banish, you know, this, and that way, you know, you can resource loop it or whatever. And then, like, on our follow-up, draw for turn, okay, we have a Skarm. I'd probably just go with the Tour Guide. And then if they happen to chain something, you have the Little Knight. If not, you just get to play. So yeah, that's the tough part. But still, even through hitting all the cards that we didn't want to hit off of mills and banishes, we still ended on something that put up essentially 4 interruptions and created a resource loop. So even though I don't like playing the deck going first, it can play going first a little bit, but going second, obviously it's significantly better, just so much better. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you want to upload more cool and awesome videos like the one you just watched. And for right now, this is Drew, Traveler Burning Abyss, signing out.